For what felt like an eternity, countless hearts were tethered to a single burning question. Could the searing, unrelenting pain of losing someone so deeply entwined with your soul, someone who was a part of you in ways words could never capture, ever truly fade? The ache never left. It was a constant companion in the quiet of every night, where sleep slipped through trembling fingers. It lived in the silence between breaths, in the spaces where laughter once lived, now hollow and still. The weight of absence hung heavy, a reminder that some wounds, no matter how much time passes, refuse to heal. The endless spiral of what-ifs looped through the mind, a broken record that never stopped playing. What if you had done something differently? What if you had said the words that remained unspoken? What if their absence was something you could never escape? Grief became a presence, a shadow that loomed in every corner of life, quietly gnawing away at the edges of your soul. It never relented, never softened, and it refused to be forgotten. Its whispers were always present in the smallest moments. It was a heavy cloak, one that was worn not by choice, but by fate. But then what if, just for a breathtaking moment, you could dare to imagine the impossible? What if everything you thought you knew about loss, about fate, about love itself, was shattered in an instant? Picture this Amy, who had spent every day rebuilding her life brick by aching brick, learning to live with the weight of Ty's absence, her husband, her partner, her heart, who had become the very fabric of her existence, finds herself standing on the edge of a miracle she had stopped daring to hope for. Ty, the man she had lost so suddenly, so irrevocably, is alive, breathing, here. And he isn't just back to reclaim the life they once had. No, Ty is back, but he carries with him a truth so raw, so devastatingly soul-shaking, that it threatens to unravel everything Amy thought she knew about their love, their future, and the fragile world she's built since his loss. He's carrying an apology, yes. But not just any apology. This is a confession, carved out of the deepest pain, the heaviest regret, and an undying love that has survived years of absence, of silence. It's a love so fierce, so enduring, it could shake the very foundation of the life Amy thought she was left to rebuild alone. This isn't just a second chance at love. This is a reckoning, a challenge to everything Amy has come to accept as truth. Every fiber of her being will be tested as the love she thought was lost to time, grief, and fate itself rises from the ashes, powerful and undeniable, as it ever was. Ty's return isn't just a miracle. It's the ignition of a firestorm that will ripple through their entire world, testing forgiveness, loyalty, and healing in ways neither of them could have ever predicted. It will challenge everything Amy thought she knew about herself, about the future she was sure she would have to walk alone, about the strength she thought she had already mustered. The morning light falls gently over Heartland Ranch, casting a golden glow over the fields, as if the earth itself senses the monumental shift that's about to take place. The horses graze peacefully, swishing their tails in the soft breeze, unaware of the storm building on the horizon. Even the tall grasses, usually dancing with the wind, seem to hold their breath as the world pauses in anticipation of something, someone, unimaginable. Amy steps out into the yard, her eyes distant, her heart weighed down by the years of grief and that aching, gnawing longing that never seems to leave. Every morning, she goes through the motions, raising her daughter, keeping the family together, staying strong for Jack, Lou, and everyone who needs her. But beneath the surface, she knows the truth. She hasn't healed. She's just learned how to live with the gaping holes he left behind. Today, though, something feels different. The sun rises, casting its golden warmth over the land, but it feels off. The universe itself seems to be holding its breath, as if it's about to reveal something Amy wasn't ready for. She moves into the barn, seeking solace in the familiar smells of hay, leather, and the quiet comfort of the horses. Spartan, her faithful gelding, stands in his stall, but he's restless. He lifts his head, ears twitching, nostrils flaring, sensing something or someone approaching. Amy reaches out to calm him, her hand trembling as she murmurs, "Easy," her pulse quickening with an energy she can't place. Something about this morning is too right, too electric, like the air itself is charged, anticipating something she's not yet ready to understand. Then she hears it. At first, it's so soft, she almost dismisses it, the sound of hooves striking the earth, a familiar rhythm. But as it grows louder, the realization hits her like a wave crashing into the shore. That cadence, it's unmistakable. It's Ty. Her breath catches in her throat, and her body moves before her mind can even catch up. She sets the brush down, her legs unsteady as she moves toward the barn doors. Each step feels heavier, more uncertain. She squints into the rising sun, and there, beyond the far fence, a figure materializes. At first it's just a blur, a shadow wreathed in the misty morning light. But as the figure comes closer, she knows without a doubt who it is. It's him. Ty, alive. The impossible is standing before her, and everything she thought she understood about reality begins to fracture. She saw him die. She held him as he took his last breath. She buried him. She mourned him. And now, here he is, riding toward her as if no time has passed, as if no grave has ever swallowed him, as if none of the years of heartache, grief, and loneliness existed. Her heart races, a whirlwind of terror and hope colliding inside her. The doubts creep into her mind, fighting against the impossible truth. However, her body is aware of this. She doesn't question the truth that her heart already knows it's him. When Ty reins his horse to a stop in front of the barn, the dust rising around him like a ghost from another world, Amy can hardly breathe. They just stare at each other for a long, agonizing moment, two souls separated by time and death, but now reunited in the most bizarre of ways. And then, with a cry that shatters the silence, Amy runs. She crashes into his chest with a force that nearly knocks him off his horse. However, he is present, solid, genuine, and as utterly alive as she has ever experienced. His arms catch her, holding her close as if afraid that if he lets go, she'll vanish, just like the dream she thought he was. She weeps against his jacket, breathing in the familiar, comforting scent of him, leather, sweat, and something uniquely Thai. In that moment, nothing else matters. Not the ranch, not the world beyond them, just the overwhelming, breathtaking reality that he's here. He's alive. Ty whispers in her ear, his voice rough and broken. I'm here. I'm here. I hear. I'm not leaving again. Everything fades into a distant murmur as the distant call for her name and the shuffle of family members moving toward them are heard. Amy holds on to him as if her very life depends on it, too terrified to let go, afraid that if she does, he'll disappear. Eventually, reality presses in. Amy pulls back just enough to see his face older, rougher, his eyes haunted by things she hasn't yet begun to understand. His voice is shaking with emotion as he says, I never wanted to leave you. This wasn't done by accident. Then, the broken, desperate story of a decision made in the darkest of times comes out. One that tore them apart and changed the course of their lives forever. But as the secrets tumble between them, a new question rises in Amy's chest, hot and suffocating. It's the only question that matters now. How could he leave her like that? She thought he had vanished forever, but how could that be? Why? Why did she cradle his lifeless body? Why did the doctors give up? Why did she grieve a man who was never truly gone? She is acutely aware of one thing as she looks into Ty's tear-filled eyes. The responses will alter everything. He explains that seeing that much with her own eyes shocked him. He was truly in danger of dying. Doctors were honest about that. But at the final moment, some specialized team swooped in, offering a procedure with a slim chance of success. The catch was that for it to work or for him to survive the aftermath, they had to operate under the radar. Ty said that he had to go away. No public information regarding his recovery. There is no indication that he will prevail. There was a looming threat, an organized group that deliberately targeted him. They would arrive, not just for him, but also for Amy and Lindy if they found out he was still alive. He says the words as though confessing a sin. He begged the doctors, the authorities, even Jack and Lou to keep it quiet to let the world believe he was gone for good. In a self-protective posture, Amy listens with her arms crossed over her torso. She can't stop shaking. It feels like each syllable is a new stab. She was deliberately kept in the dark if everything was planned. Why didn't they have faith in me? She asks, her voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. Couldn't I have handled it? Couldn't I have prepared, or at least avoided the unimaginable loneliness I faced after his death? Ty's expression crumbles. He insists that he was forced to lie because there was no other option. If those people knew he was alive, they would have made sure he ended up dead for real, and they wouldn't stop until they reached anyone he loved. He's carrying guilt like a 100-pound weight, knowing she suffered, that she had to navigate grief alone, that Lindy grew up without him. He describes how every day his absence was torture in rambling sentences. He described how he desired to see them and hold them, but believed that concealment was the only way to ensure their safety. She reels. It all weighs too much to handle all at once. Underneath her shock, there's a part of her that sees the love in his actions. He did this out of a desperate need to protect her, to shield her and their daughter from the unspeakable dangers that lurked in the shadows. But the other part of her, the part that howls in betrayal, is raw and visceral. How dare he rob her of the right to choose? How could he refuse her the opportunity to join him in the fight for his life and confront the darkness together, as they had always done? Her internal turmoil is unbearable. She doesn't know whether to slap him across the face or to kiss him to unleash the storm of fury inside her, or to collapse into his arms with the relief of seeing him again. Her gaze flickers to Jack, standing in the shadow of the barn, his hat in hand. As if he has been carrying this burden for too long, his weathered and worn face carries a mixture of sadness and relief. Behind him stands Lo. She has a pale complexion and tear-filled eyes. So everyone knew? Amy's voice, with the weight of everything she's holding back, finally breaks through the silence. She demands to know how many nights they watched her fall apart. How many mornings she woke up hollow, her heart a gaping hole, and not one of them said a word. Not one. The fabrication. This monumental betrayal feels like an entire world crashing down on her. The air between them grows thick with tension, as if the very walls of the barn might crack from the weight of the truth that's finally coming to light. Ty's face is a mixture of fear and resolve. He comprehends her fury. He expected nothing less. However, he was unable to let Lindy or her become targets. He couldn't risk their safety for the sake of his own silence. He cannot adequately apologize to undo the years she spent enduring ghost grief. Amy feels trapped, torn. Between the love she still carries for him and the searing wound his absence and lies left behind, the emotional minefield before her is overwhelming. But one thing is certain, she's staring into the eyes of the man she loved more than life itself, the man she thought she had lost forever. Her heart aches with the flicker of joy that dances in her chest at the sight of him. He's back. He's here. But then the betrayal digs its claws in deeper, and she wonders if she will ever be able to trust him again. The words escape her before she can stop them. I don't know if I can forgive you. They tear through her, brutal in their honesty. She hates herself for them, but they're the truth. She fought so hard to rebuild her life without him, to breathe without the weight of his absence. And now, standing before him, she's left to face the wreckage of a life that had been built on the ashes of his disappearance. Ty's voice cracks when he speaks, the rawness in it a reflection of his own torment. He promises he'll wait as long as it takes. He'll stay on the ranch in the background if that's what she needs, doing whatever it takes to prove he isn't walking out on her again. The tears streaking down his face, tears of regret, of pain, of longing cut through her. She sees not just her own suffering reflected in them, but the weight of the torment he's carried in silence all these years. Without thinking, Amy steps toward him, the gravity of the moment pulling her in. She lets him wrap his arms around her again, just for a moment, because the yearning to be near him, to feel the warmth of his presence after all this time, is overwhelming. The hours that follow feel like time itself has shifted. The ranch, usually a place of activity and life, has been frozen, caught in a strange and surreal limbo. Lou hovers nearby, desperate to ask questions but respecting Amy's space. Jack, too, tries to maintain calm, acknowledging the miracle of Ty's return while understanding that the emotional fallout will be massive. Tim, at first, keeps his distance, arms crossed, his sharp eyes casting sidelong glances at Ty, as if part of him resents the pain's disappearance caused. But there's another part of him, buried deep, that can't deny the relief of seeing Ty alive, breathing, standing before them. Amy, overwhelmed by everything, retreats to the loft of the barn. Her steps are slow, hesitant, as though she's afraid to face the reality of what's happening. She finds an old wooden bench by a window and sinks onto it, staring out across the rolling fields bathed in the soft, dying light of the day. Everything outside is the same, serene, golden, untouched by the storm that rages inside her. Inside her mind, however, the chaos is deafening. She stays there for what feels like hours, the silence broken only by the soft rustle of hay and the occasional murmur of horses shifting below her. Then the ladder creaks again. Ty climbs up slow and cautious, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace between them. He settles a few feet away, careful to leave space between them. The silence hangs between them, delicate and taut, like a thread pulled too tight. When Amy finally speaks, her voice is low and cracked, a mirror of her broken heart. She doesn't ask for more apologies. She asks for the truth, the unvarnished, painful truth about the day he disappeared, the day she held his broken body in her arms and thought she had lost him forever. Ty takes a long, shuddering breath before he begins. His voice is strained as he tells her of the chaos of the men in unfamiliar uniforms, not law enforcement, who descended out of nowhere and yanked him from the brink of death. He speaks of being whisked away in a disguised ambulance, drugged into unconsciousness, and subjected to desperate, secretive medical procedures in a place no one could find. Months spent recovering behind locked doors, isolated from everything he loved, while danger circled, relentless and unforgiving. He tells her of the letters he wrote, each one a lifeline he never got to send. The countless times he picked up the phone, only to hang up, paralyzed by the fear of bringing the danger back to her doorstep. His voice cracks when he speaks of the worst part, the knowledge that every single day she was living through hell, grieving, mourning, struggling, and he couldn't reach her. He believed silence was the only way to protect her. Amy listens in silence, tears slipping down her cheeks without a sound. Each word heals and wounds her at once. It's like reliving the nightmare, but from the other side helpless and haunted. When he finishes, Amy speaks softly, but with an edge in her voice. She tells him she understands why he made the choices he did, but it doesn't erase the devastation. It doesn't undo the years of loneliness, of loss, of building a life on the broken shards of what once was. She wonders aloud if he should have trusted her more to fight with him, not to protect her by leaving her behind. Ty bows his head, grief and regret etched deeply on his face. If he could rewrite the past, he swears he would. He would change every terrible decision he made. But now, all he can do is stand before her, broken but breathing, and try to rebuild what was lost. The next day, the ranch is caught between two worlds. There's a palpable tension, like a storm about to break, but there's also an undercurrent of cautious hope, a flicker of something that might be healing. Tim finds Ty by the paddock. For a long, silent moment, they just stare at each other, two men bound by history, pain, and the same love for the woman who stands at the heart of it all. Then Tim mutters a curse under his breath, strides forward, and pulls Ty into a rough, back-slapping hug, half anger, half relief. "You damn fool," he grunts, his voice thick with emotion. Lou hovers nearby, alternating between lawyer mode and big sister mode, tears already forming. She's already rattling off a list of complications, death certificates, bank accounts, land deeds, pacing the dirt with a manic kind of energy, laughing and crying at the same time. Georgie lingers at a distance, memories of Ty as her mentor and big brother figure flashing across her face. Eventually, she walks to him, silent but sure, and hugs him fiercely, clinging to him like an anchor. She thought she had lost him forever. Later, Amy rides out alone to the familiar grove where her initials are carved into a towering old tree. Tai follows on horseback, keeping a respectful distance. When she dismounts, she doesn't speak. She lays her hand against the rough bark, grounding herself. Tai follows her behind and simply stands there without touching her. A silent offering. She quietly thanks him for giving her space. Then, with her voice raw and breaking, she says what has weighed on her heart since the moment she saw him: "I never stopped loving you." A pause in the silence. However, regaining confidence will take time. Tai's eyes shine, and he nods, solemn and sure. "I won't be going anywhere." Knowing that what they build now will be harder, deeper, and more earned, they stand side by side and gaze at the scarred initial symbols of a simpler time. The family gathers for the first time in what seems like a lifetime that evening at the long wooden dinner table. Unaware of the undercurrents of emotion that are swirling around her, Lindy talks excitedly about school projects. In an effort to restore order, Georgie mentions a forthcoming show jumping competition. Tim and Lou bicker playfully about business ideas, laughter breaking through old walls. At the head of the table, Jack sits silently, his weathered face etched with something fierce and tender, as he takes in the impossible sight of Tai sitting there, alive. Amy notices Tai as he looks at the food on the plates. Her pain is still present. She still has trembling in her soul, but somehow she finds a genuine, tiny, hopeful smile. With everything they've lost and everything they still have to fight for, Tai returns it as a silent promise. Heartland becomes quiet for the night much later. The stars glimmer overhead. Amy and Tai step outside, side by side, onto the porch. Crickets chirp in the fields. Under the moonlight, the horses' silhouettes are barely discernible. Amy rests her head on Tai's shoulder. They're not fixed. Not by a long shot. But there's a sense of relief in this moment. They've made it through another day. Tai softly says he's sorry again for everything. Leaning into his warmth, Amy snoozes. She simply says, "I know." In the days to come, the real work begins forging a path that acknowledges the lost years, the heartbreak, and the love that refused to die. It's not a fairy tale. There are arguments, tears, steps forward and backward, but also a tenderness that runs deep. The ranch, with its timeless rhythms and patient wisdom, stands as witness to this slow rebuilding of something that was once shattered. The family, though scarred by secrets, tries to mend those wounds together. Meanwhile, Lindy discovers the simple joys of having a father to read her stories at bedtime or teach her how to fish by the creek. As for Amy, she learns that healing doesn't mean pretending the hurt never happened. It means standing in the wreckage and deciding to see if hope can grow from it. She does not know whether it will take months or years. But one thing is clear: Tai is here, and he's determined to stay. That oppressive ache in her chest loosens a little bit more as she walks out to check on the horses at each sunrise. She is able to look at him without immediately recalling the agony of losing him, and instead gradually accepts the warmth of his presence near her. Though the future is unwritten, there's a new undercurrent running through Heartland. A sense that maybe miracles can happen, that love can endure unimaginable tests, that sometimes the hardest goodbyes can lead to second chances. The ranch is alive with a cautious optimism that this family, battered by loss and betrayal, might still be able to find its way to a solid, united tomorrow. For Amy and Tai, the path ahead isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about learning to accept every part of their story, trusting that the love rooted in their history is strong enough to weather the storm still to come. If you followed Heartland all these years, you know that each challenge the family faces only serves to shape them into something stronger, something more resilient. Tai's return from the shadow of death might just be the greatest test they've ever endured, one that will stretch Amy's heart, challenge their child's sense of security, and demand the family's deepest capacity for forgiveness and rebuilding. But if there's one truth that echoes through these hills and fields they call home, it's this: real love, when tested by unimaginable pain, can emerge from the other side like tempered steel, stronger, more unbreakable, shiny with the promise that no matter how dark the night, morning will always come. Thank you for being part of this journey. The story of Amy and Tai is far from over, and perhaps that is the most beautiful aspect of everything. Their lives have become entwined with love, loss, and hope into something that cannot be broken, even in the face of the unthinkable. With a second chance written in the stars, we are here to witness how hearts can heal, how trust can be rebuilt, and how love, when it's real, never truly dies. Thank you for being here, for believing in their journey, and for letting your heart become part of this incredible story. The best is yet to come because out here, under the endless open sky, anything is possible.